Hey, John. So we're at the location of one of the most famous true crime scenes in all of, well, in all of true crime history. What are we looking at over here?
Yeah, we sure are. Well, this is the infamous fire hydrant that Berkowitz parked at. And of the millions of dollars and hard police work, that's the hero of Son of Sam right there.
It's true.
Pure steel.
Yeah. Exactly, and of course a lot of speculation as to why this guy would do the shooting after getting a parking ticket and all that stuff has been analyzed and discussed to death. But we're here today in Brooklyn to just show everybody the, well, all the scenes of the final Son of Sam shooting, the shooting of Stacey Moscowitz and Robert Violante. So, John, why don't you tell everyone where we are exactly, and let's give them a kind of an overview of the neighborhood. Yeah, well, and let's walk up to where the kind of things sort of started. Yeah, well, they really started here when he parked here, but we have more of the story to tell you.
Yeah, so we're on Bay 16th between Cropsey and Shore Parkway.
17th.
17th. And what we're going to do is show you Cecilia Davis's apartment, where she lived, which is right up here.
Right.
262.
And of course, Davis was the famous eyewitness, one of the most important eyewitnesses besides Tommy Zano to this evening, the evening, of course, of 7/31/1977, July 31st, because yeah. Cecilia actually witnessed David Berkowitz, well, seemingly a couple times that evening. But why don't we pick up the story from like what happened here, and now we're in front of 262 Bay 17th. This is Cecilia Davis's entrance. Let's actually show it.
Yes.
So this is where the famous Cecilia Davis and her dog, what was it, Snowball?
Yes.
Entered.
Snowball?
Snowflake, Snowball. She would have entered into here, 262 Bay 17th Street, and this is her courtyard. And these are like what, garden apartments? These aren't projects, right?
No, no. They're just regular apartment rentals. Mm-hmm. So as her report goes, coming back from a date, her and her date pulled down Bay 17, and were looking for a parking spot, and noticed a car parked at the hydrant that was ticketed already. So that gives us an idea, because we know he was ticketed at 2:05. So sometime a little after 2:05, she pulled up, because she remembers the cops were still here giving other tickets.
Right, they were slowly going down this block. This actually relatively long New York City block, yes, giving tickets that night.
Now, because her date was unable to find the spot, they said goodnight. She went upstairs, got her dog, and decided to take the dog for a walk, which she went down to Shore Parkway and to the right before the park where the shooting was.
Right, and we'll be showing all those locations a little later in the video.
As she was walking back home, somewhere probably around the corner, mm-hmm, she started to feel uneasy and noticed somebody following her.
So we'll do that, we'll pick that up. But one thing I want to notice while we're standing on this particular part of the street, is I just want to note that we're here at the exact same time period. We're filming this on July, I don't know, 26th, 27th. I'm not even sure what date it is right now.
Yeah, 29th.
29th. All right, so it's literally 2 days before the anniversary. And so the street would have been relatively the same. Now, I don't know if these trees were the same, But one of the things that I'm noticing straight off the bat, John, is that
Yes.
fire hydrant is a speck. It's a dot all
Yes.
the way down the block.
Yes.
Cecilia Davis was parked here. There's no way she could have seen details down there. There's just no way.
Supposedly, Cecilia Davis and her date were triple parked here, which makes no sense.
Right,
So they were probably double parked right here.
right.
And
Allegedly.
allegedly, she saw Berkowitz removing the parking ticket
Remove
from
the
his
ticket.
windshield.
Right, get angry.
Get angry, put it back in the car, and then
Watch the police.
lean on the car and watch the police as they're giving more tickets.
Yeah, she's able to discern all of this in the middle of the night.
I can tell you-
with trees.
This block has always been tree lined. It's very dark at nighttime. If you were to try to film from here to the hydrant at nighttime, you'd see nothing.
Right,
So how she saw all of that,
and of course you
beyond me.
And of course, you and I have dealt with all of these issues in great detail in our now legendary 4-part Brooklyn series, which we suggest people watch because although we are going to show you the sites today and we're going to get into some detail, we get into greater detail in the live stream format because it just lends itself more to that type of you know, presentation. But I kind of forgot where I was going with that, John.
Well, this is an important spot
Yeah.
because, as I was saying, as she returned back from her dog walk, at around
So just so the audience knows,
Here's the fire hydrant.
street, the fire hydrant's here. The street at the end of the block, which runs perpendicular, is Shore Parkway
right.
to this. So why don't you pick up the Cecilia Davis's story from here, and then what we'll do is then we'll pick up where Berkowitz then walked to the kill zone.
Yes. So as she got to about this point, she turned around again and noticed not only was that suspicious man still following her, but she said he was actually trying to hide behind a tree. But she obviously saw him behind the tree. So, getting a little frightened, she kind of froze in her tracks. And then he came from behind the tree and walked right straight up to her, where she got a positive identification of his features and what she thought was him holding a radio.
And that would have happened
his
like
hand.
right around here.
Oh, right here, absolutely. She then says he continued walking to the entrance to the courtyard, which basically cuts across to the next block to the park. So I'd like to show you that, yeah.
Okay. So then their little interaction happens right there by the hydrant.
Yes.
She stays in place, right?
Yeah, she says he walked up to her, he looked her in the face, and he continued to walk to this courtyard. She describes him walking funny, maybe militant, maybe like a cat.
She said it was like one step at a time, which is
Yeah.
kind of weird. Like I don't know
Yeah.
what that exactly means, but this is the courtyard, which cuts through
Yes.
and goes right to the park, to the edge of the park, where all of this shooting took place that night.
She then said, from a different angle, what she thought might have been like a radio in his hand started to look like a gun. So
Right, and who knows the real truth about that, you know?
right.
Chances are it was
So-
a gun, but who knows?
So this is the route that Berkowitz actually took. He cut through this courtyard.
And you know, just because we're Americans and we always walk to the right, he probably did go this way. You can equally go that way and around the fence,
Yes.
but he probably walked this way.
Yes, I'm sure of it.
Now, I want to show this sign because this is a vintage sign. Was this always called Bayview Gardens?
From where you guys? From where you are?
Oh, we're just filming a site location for Son of Sam. You know about Son of Sam?
We won't show you, ma'am.
Were you living here?
Were you here that night?
Were you living here back then?
Oh, yes.
The
Son
night
of
of the
Sam?
shooting? The night of in 1977?
No.
No.
I'm living here from 2000.
Oh, okay. There was a famous crime here in 1977, and
No,
we're
I hear about this.
right, and we're showing the
I hear that.
right.
My block.
Exactly, over there. All right, John, we got to kind of carry on. Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, just,
So,
oh, I lost the sheet.
yes.
Yes.
Yes, I hear about this. I know somebody who lived here from 2077.
Really? Really?
Neighbors,
Really?
yes.
What number? Can we come talk to them?
242-1B and 242-1C.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, cool. So, Berkowitz,
It's so easy to get information on this case. It's scary.
I know. I mean, everyone has a story. So Berkowitz, this is so two something in the morning. He's walking through here, and now he
Yes.
comes to, what is this? Bay 16th,
This is Bay 16th.
and there is the famous Bath Beach Park, where just
The entrance to the paddleball court, yes.
right, where all of this takes place. Now, there's some issue with the way he went in here. We know that he came out of the paddleball courts, or
Yes.
most likely came out of the paddleball courts here.
Yes.
But the way in was through the baseball field.
Supposedly, there was a hole in the fence in this section, the right field section of the baseball field, which is very possible.
Right, it was the 70s. This actually
And-
was kind of a degenerate park. It looked like it.
It was a little beat up, but
little-
that was, you
That
know,
was the 70s.
signs of the time.
Right.
So it's very possible he could have cut through here, because right on the other side is a double fence that opens, which is what they use to get machinery in to cut the grass and stuff, and that's always been there.
Right, and we'll show a vintage picture of that when we get there.
So-
So we can't get in through this way, but this is most likely the way that Berkowitz entered into here. And of course, he was going diagonally. I'm not sure he knew he was going that way for
Right.
sure, but he eventually ended up diagonally at where I'm pointing, which is where Robert and Stacey were parked.
Regardless, it's not much of a different path, slightly different angle, but for our purposes, we're going to walk through the
We're going to walk
handball
through
court.
where he came out of, most likely, because as we'll show when we get to that part of the video, he was eyewitnessed by somebody in one of those buildings.
Yes.
And it's funny because that was like one of the most chilling moments of our live stream when we did that, when we read that police report, because it really did sound like it was that she was describing Berkowitz.
It
same
did.
Same dress as Cecilia Davis saw, same hairstyle.
It's funny because I don't know how many times this was paved, but I remember these basketball courts, and the surface always looked like this. It's just,
Typical NYC park.
this is almost timeless, this little section.
So this is a good day to be here because there's actually very few people here, which is good because we don't want to be filming children as much as we possibly can. We want to avoid that. But this,
Little reference,
yeah,
if you don't mind. In 1984, this park underwent a renovation. Prior to that, during the Son of Sam shootings, from here, from this spot to a little before the tree was what you call a park house, which was basically beat up building with a couple of urinals and
Right.
bathrooms.
now I do have a vintage photograph of that, which I do want to line up
Yes.
to where they probably took that photo.
I'm going to get out of the frame so you can do
That's
that.
fine if you're in there. But they probably took that photo right about here. So you guys will see the park house in the photo on the right. All right, so the park house is gone. The one that Stacey and Robert was part of their whole swing story.
Yes. To the right of the park house were swings. To the left of the park house were swings.
Are those the original swings, or is that?
I don't remember. One side were kiddie swings and the other side were adult swings. I just don't remember which one was which.
Right.
I'm assuming the adult swings were this way because Robert described walking by the park house
Walking by it.
with Stacey on their way to the swings and feeling a little weird seeing some guy leaning up against the park house.
So that would have taken place right here. The park house would have been right where these shrubs are now,
Yes.
right where these Fothergilla are right now. No, sorry,
It
that's
actually
Clefter.
came up to here.
It came up to here.
It ended here and it started there.
So
yeah.
they're walking most likely to that area there.
Yes.
Berkowitz is leaning against, most likely Berkowitz, leaning against the park house here, and then what happens?
And what happens is, after a couple of minutes, they were on the swings, talking and kissing or whatever. Stacey started to get a little creeped out. It seemed like he was stalking them. And she told Robert about it, and they decided to get off the swings and walk back to the car. On their way back, when they got out, they noticed that he was gone.
The grubby hippie looking dude, allegedly.
Well, I've heard grubby hippie. On Robert's report, it said unshaven, suntan, long hair. So I guess.
Doesn't even sound like Berkowitz.
You know.
And that's another point which I want to make real quick. You know, Maury Terry makes it seem like in these crime scenes there's only two people around, crime victim and Berkowitz. Talk about sociologically this park in 1977. Was it a busy park? Were there a lot of people here? Were there transients here?
It was a hangout park. It was at some point a pot dealing spot. That side was definitely a lover's lane. In the daytime, this was children, and at nighttime, it was teenagers and people hanging out, partying. So the fact that it was a desolate area at nighttime is certainly not true. True, Son of Sam fever was in the air here, and it might not have been as active, but it certainly, even on that night, there was activity. People were pulling up and leaving and coming and going.
It was an active scene with a lot of people pulling in and out, a lot of moving parts, as I like to say. Now, I want to just show real quick this scene here, because it seems like we have a vintage photograph of this very fence.
Yeah.
So I want to just show that real quick. Yeah. Hey guys, if you're wondering what we're doing, Stacey Moscowitz, it's 1977. So all right, so Stacey and Robert walk out of the fence area there.
Yeah, she started to get creeped out like he was stalking her, and they decided to go back to the car.
Which was parked over there.
On their way back, they no longer saw him at the park house. So they walked back to the car, and according to Robert, sat in the car for 5 or 10 minutes, talked. I don't know, maybe they were making out or kissing. At some point, she wanted to leave, and he said, 5 more minutes. Let's hang out 5 more minutes. And shortly after that, the shooting happened, right at that location.
So this is really the center spot right here of this night.
This is it. Now, this park just opened in June and underwent another renovation, but for the most part, it's pretty much intact.
Now, before we show that, I want to line up the park to another vintage photograph that I have of it, which was probably taken right about here. And you can see the old entrance to the park. So now this is Shore Parkway.
Yes.
And this is Shore Parkway here. And the Verrazano Bridge is over here. And, well,
if this were a street, it would be Bay 15th. But there's no such thing, so it's between Bay 14th and Bay 16th.
Now, unfortunately, they tore down the footbridge.
Yes. They're building a new structure.
They're building a new one, and just so we can all see so the bay is in the distance there, we can all see it. And the new bridge is gonna go over, but this was the bridge that they crossed and then came out of and then went into the park. So now set up the shooting for us.
Yeah, so Robert's car was parked almost identically to the inch in this position. And
yeah, actually his car was parked right against this light pole, and his center, His center was right where this was center. In fact,
Almost identically.
yeah, in fact, let's show you the vintage photograph, police photograph of his car, lining up almost perfectly with this. So now set us up.
Just for reference, while this spot is open,
Yeah.
this would be where Tommy Zano and his date were parked in the blue Corvette.
Because they wanted to move up to a darker spot, which would make sense right underneath this tree.
They were originally in the spot Robert took. They moved up 2 or 3 car lengths. And this would be the view he saw of the shooting in his rear view mirror. I know it doesn't look the same.
Why don't you stand where Berkowitz would have been?
Yeah, so...
Was there a car? So he was parked here. His rear view mirror would have been here.
Yes.
Was there a car behind him, do you know? I don't think so.
No.
No. So this Cadillac wasn't there. So this was Zano's view right here. He's looking at his rear view mirror. We're now Tommy
So
Zano.
he sees someone walk out of the park. Shortly after a police car passed, I'd like to add. He walks up to the car. Bang, 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 bang.
Now I'm close. Now I'm standing the same spot where he saw them, and the camera makes things look a little farther away. But quite honestly, in the pitch black, even with that light, you're just far enough that I can't make out details.
You know, the light could be bright. It's hard to tell.
It's hard to tell.
I mean, the best thing I could say is I would imagine he should have been able to identify at least a body outline.
Right.
But
so this is the Buick Skylark. This is exactly where they're parked.
yes,
This is literally the spot where Stacey was sitting inside. This was literally the airspace she was occupying when she was killed.
and of course you remember that photo. You had seen some blood on this pole. It's a black and white photo. But after the shooting, Robert got out. I guess he was holding on with some blood, screaming, trying to get attention to him. Help, I need help.
Screaming help, and there's houses,
Honking
plenty of
his
houses
horn.
there.
And at some point, I think he just fell down onto the ground.
So that would have occurred right here. Now Klausner has Berkowitz shooting them from the driver's side, which is just clearly impossible. There's no way in hell he could have crouched down. That would have had to have played right here. They would have noticed him. He would have had to have been, because the pole was here, he would have had to have been right in Robert's line of sight of that. So that's
There's about 2 feet of sidewalk there. It would have been very uncomfortable. He would have been spotted. They might have been able to...
Now I want to just show something real quick and discuss this real quick before we go there.
Sure.
So this S here, there was an S or a 5. We're not quite sure what this is, but there's pictures of an S on the pole from 1977.
Yes.
There was a little question, is it the same one? I don't think it's the same one.
I doubt it's the same one, but you could see the tens of layers of paint. I mean, they're obviously painting it again. Occasionally, you'll see a candle, a picture of Stacey here. So somebody might have just done that, but I don't know if it was a 5 or an S, but it was here that night.
It was here that night, so clearly it wasn't a shrine to Stacey because it's not an S meaning her.
No.
But I wonder, it's been here since 1977 and it keeps on getting redrawn. So I wonder if it's morphed into a shrine to Stacey, like in the mind of the...
That's possible. That's possible.
Because, I mean, why would someone keep repainting that?
You know what? That's a good question. The only other thing is, I'm wondering if, I mean, I know they're doing a lot of work. I'm wondering if, well, nah. I mean, it looks too much like the other one.
Yeah, the ones that...
I was wondering if that's something they use to identify stuff that needs to be done, but...
Right. I want to line up another vintage photo.
Sure.
So stand... So yeah, right here. So stand over there. You're gonna be the detectives.
Here?
Yeah, right here. Right here. So we're lining up another photo now for you guys. John is sort of where the detectives were. I actually, since we have the opportunity to get into this car, I want to actually sit, if you don't mind, where Stacey was sitting. This is the exact, this is the exact airspace that she was sitting in. This is her perspective. This is the last perspective of Stacey Moscowitz. So she would have been in here. Might as well close the door.
And open the window.
It's all right. She would have been in here looking forward.
I don't know, are you getting a glare?
No. Now, we're not going to totally reenact this. John and I are not going to make out for you guys.
And I am not going to shoot you.
No.
So neither of those things are going to happen.
So, anyway, but this is it. This was Stacey Moskowitz's last view. And, you know, who knows if she looked out this way. Berkowitz would have been right behind her, right there. Wow. All right, so let's retrace his steps back. And don't worry, guys, we're going to come back to Shore Parkway and talk about some of the Maury Terry stuff. So if you didn't get enough Shore Parkway, we're going to hit you up. All right. So now.
So simply, the only eyewitness, Tommy Zano, describes the shooting. Says the gunman immediately turned around and ran back into the park the same way he came out.
Right, and people, you know, we'll talk about the snuff film van when we come back in a second. I don't want to dilute this part of it.
Yes.
But, you know, people say, oh, why did he choose Stacey and Robert? And it's because they were under a light and the snuff film could have filmed them. No. Douchebags. It was the closest car to the entrance. If there had been a car there with people in it, he might have shot over there. But it's the closest car to the entrance. It's just a simple matter of, like, he wanted to get the hell out of there as quickly as he possibly could have. This guy was, despite being psychotic and doing these things, he was actually pretty methodical and calculated about this. So he's running back now like a bat out of hell.
Yes.
Everyone said, oh, he couldn't run. I don't believe that. I believe he was perfectly fine to run.
Yes.
And so, pick it up from here, John.
Yeah, so he ran into the park, and he ran in this direction. And we know he was seen coming out of the entrance of the handball courts, because we have a police report.
We have a police report, and it's
pretty much describes him almost to the T.
Almost to the T. So
and we're going to show you where that person lived and
right, exactly. So how they could have seen this and all that.
Yes.
So
Berkowitz ran.
I mean, super lucky there was nobody in here waiting, you know, that could have stopped him.
Right. Or at least no one that reported him running by.
So he runs through here. Was this entrance always there?
Always there.
He had to have scoped this out before.
Well, we know he was here because he started a fire on Bay 13th in Shore Parkway.
Right.
And he said he was here, I think, to his psychiatrist. I know it's hard to believe anything he says, but...
Because unless you know this area, you're not going to know about these really quick escape routes. So he's eyewitnessed by a woman who lives in one of these buildings here.
Yes.
Who witnessed...
I assume this or this one.
Right, this or here, because she had to have a view.
And it's...
So what happens in that report?
Yeah, so she describes a guy, wavy dark hair, leave the paddleball courts right after hearing the shooting and hearing the horn and hearing the screaming. And he walks towards her building to this courtyard, which goes back
directly
to Bay 17th.
To Bay 17th.
Yes.
So we're now tracing Berkowitz's known route back to the car.
Yes.
As witnessed by not only an eyewitness, but also by him. He said he did this through the courtyard. He admitted to all of this.
I always prefer an outside source.
Right.
Because he's so not believable. But he did agree with the witness that this was his route.
So this is what he would have seen. And again, ballsy. This wasn't isolated. This wasn't deserted. This is within eyewitness of literally hundreds and hundreds of apartments.
Yeah. You know, Manny, we could have that conversation for the next 100 years. He was a very reckless serial killer.
He was.
He took a lot of chances. He had no regard for witnesses. He was lucky in so many instances that he wasn't identified.
Absolutely.
But
and he was even driving around without a
suspended license.
He got
left fingerprints on his letters. Shooting people with witnesses in a car away.
Right.
Shooting people by a Long Island Railroad, a busy train section, a restaurant outside. I mean,
it's insane. 7:30 at night.
He certainly wasn't concerned. And actually, the more you think about it, it seems like he was in a hurry to get caught. Maybe something inside of him was.
Well, he says in his letters that when he started it, his intention was always to get caught.
Yeah.
So, maybe in some weird way he knew he would work better in jail than out in real life. But couldn't he have done something a little less serious? So back to here.
Back to here. Gets in his car. I've heard he waited 5 or 10 minutes. I think that's from clause in this book. I don't trust it.
I don't trust it.
I assume he pulled away right away.
What he says.
And I know he made a right and then a left on 18th Avenue.
Right.
Which 18th Avenue literally runs to the end of Brooklyn.
Right. He said
Prospect Park.
He said he followed it to Prospect. Right. He never actually went home until way the next morning. He spent the entire night driving around Brooklyn, reading newspapers. He actually ended up back in this neighborhood later in that night. And
like I said, it's so hard to believe him. I like to, and I'll take it with a grain, but.
All right, so now, John, we want to talk now about some of Maury's theories. We've given the audience basically the factual account of what happened that night.
Yeah.
Now, Maury said that one of the reasons it was impossible for him to have done this shooting was because he drove away, which we now know is complete bullshit. There's absolutely no record of him driving away anywhere in the police reports. The only place that exists is in Maury's book.
Yeah.
So we can safely discount that as complete bullshit, because then again, where did he park? If he drove away and went further, he was putting himself in more risk to run away. It makes no sense that he drove away.
Well, according to Maury's book, he drove 2 blocks to Bath, followed the police. Once they were out of the area, he made a right and another right, and came back and parked in that lot. Then cut across here, and Cecilia Davis identified him for a second time. Of course, that's not in any of her police reports or any articles in the media, except the ones written by Maury Terry.
Except by Maury Terry, right. So since we have seen that happen time and again with Maury, where sometimes the only time that these stories exist is in his book or in his articles, we actually now discount those as just untrue.
Yeah.
But so he said that Berkowitz, one of the reasons Berkowitz couldn't have done it was because he didn't have enough time to walk from here to the kill zone, change his costume, sit in the park for a little while.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk about that, and then let's time how long it takes to walk back there at a normal pace.
He also said when Cecilia came back with the dog wasn't ready to go up. So she walked back to the corner one more time and noticed the car wasn't parked there.
Oh, it's conveniently.
Berkowitz's car was gone. That's not in any police reports. That's not in any media reports.
The only time she ever mentions a person coming out with any parking ticket was some lady who moved a parked car. That was the only thing she mentioned.
Yes.
Was a lady who moved a parked car.
Yes. So, assuming Cecilia and her date Howard originally pulled up at 2:10, 2:15, said goodnight in a couple of minutes, she could have easily went up, got the dog, walked her dog, which I know the exact route, got back by the latest 2:25.
Right.
Berkowitz still had 10 minutes from that point.
Well, the thing is, we have differing things. Like 2:35, I think, was the time that they say officially, but there's a police report that says 2:31.
2:30. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I'd like to show you the walk, and I like to time it on my phone, just to give everybody an idea of.
Right, and we're gonna do it now with no commentary, no stopping to look. We're now Berkowitz going right to the scene, doing what Berkowitz did. So did you start your stopwatch already?
No, I'm gonna start it where
Cecilia
she saw
said.
him right before they enter in the courtyard.
Okay.
Right up here.
So right up here.
So.
All right, so now we're testing another one of Maury Terry's theories. Amazing that no one's come out here and has done this in 45 years. It's left up to us to do it, but we're doing it.
So I'm gonna start a stopwatch. I'm gonna do very little talking, and we're gonna walk not at a fast pace and not at a slow pace.
Now, what are we testing that he couldn't have got, that he, exactly what?
I just wanna show how long it takes to get from here to the site of the shooting.
Okay.
You know, we could talk about what we could have thought happened in the middle of that afterwards, but I just think we should time it so people get, because I think a lot of people that read The Ultimate Evil and watch these videos think it's like a 3-4 minute walk.
Right.
So I just want to show everybody what the reality is.
All right, so now just so so start that so people can see us start it. All right, so we're now just gonna walk, and we're not walking fast, we're just walking like typical New Yorkers, probably like Berkowitz did.
Yeah, I'm not walking like a cat.
No. And so we're back here in the courtyard in the Bayview Gardens. Pretty nice here, you know. Very shady, so it's hard to do nice landscaping.
We just got the address and apartment numbers of 2 people that lived here the night of the shooting. So I'm gonna go knock on their door later.
All right, so we're coming back out, and again, we're not dilly-dallying. We're not running to the scene to try to juice the results here. We're not walking slow. We're gonna walk a slightly different route because we're gonna go through the paddleball courts, whereas Berkowitz walked down there into the baseball field, but we can't do that now. So we're just gonna do this. We're now going back into Bath Beach Park Court.
And I have to say, we picked the hottest days to do these walkathons.
Well,
I'm enjoying the sun.
Blame Berkey
But
because
the humidity, you know what? The 70s are back. We have inflation, we're having a heat wave, we're having crime.
Filth, degeneracy,
All we need is
sickness
graffiti
everywhere.
to come back and a new serial killer to pop up and we're in business.
I don't think the serial killer can happen though nowadays with all the cameras, but that's a whole other story. The Son of Sam could not happen nowadays.
Probably not.
They might be able to get away with like 1 or 2 shootings, but after that it would be done.
And it's just a lot of cameras and he'll have to leave his cell phone home. And
Right, exactly. I mean, they caught this guy, Rex Hewerman, and he didn't even have like traceable phones, and somehow they were traced. All right, so we're back now into the park.
yes.
So now, allegedly, there's this whole thing with hanging out here for a minute or 2,
Yes. Berkowitz hanging out there,
looking at them in the swings,
stalking
and
and creeping Stacey and Robert. They get creeped, walk back to the car, and Tommy sees the gunman walk up to the curb, look around to make sure nobody's coming.
So we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna walk up to Robert's car again.
And of course, this had to be passing.
Sorry.
Oh gosh.
It's okay. All right, so Berkowitz stops here, looks around, and then goes up to the car. Let's go. So stop your stopwatch when you feel appropriate.
Okay, so I stopped it late at 2:58. So we're at almost 3 minutes. And if you're telling me that you could determine that Berkowitz didn't do it because it took 3 minutes to walk here,
Right.
I just don't get it. I don't get it whatsoever.
Right. He was saying that he didn't have enough time to get here because of Cecilia, but didn't she say, let's go, didn't she say something about, didn't she say, hold on, we're fucking, oh, he's going in there. Didn't she say something about it not even being 3 minutes, it was more like 5 or 6 minutes?
Look, even if she spotted him at 2:32, he had 3 minutes to get here and dude shooting at 2:35.
Right.
So I doubt it took her all that time to walk her dog back and forth after she got dropped off at 2:10, 2:15. I mean, it's literally the same walk we just did.
Right. I mean, just basically, we've shown that Berkowitz could have done it. Maury said he couldn't have done it in that little amount of time. We've just shown that he could.
Right.
So it's much like Virginia Voskerichian and the Joggers, as we're gonna see, another story that Maury kind of just made up. Now I want to go through some of the other stuff here. This is where, right here, is where this
The
alleged
infamous snuff film van would be parked.
Right. So now we've determined that this is MMB, more Maury bullshit. No reports of a snuff film ban in any police report whatsoever.
So if this is your idea of a snuff film, it's a pretty boring one.
Yeah, what would
Not
you
to be
say?
morbid. You could easily fake someone shooting a car from this far away. From everything I've always heard about snuff films, it's for sick people that like to watch people suffering.
Yeah, the
and
blood,
getting
the
hurt.
gore.
So I don't know what they would be able to film from this location, but
So they would have filmed from here. Why don't you pretend you're Berkowitz and let's see what the snuff film van would have been filming, by the way, with Super 8 recording, not digital crisp technology, middle of the night. So again, this is what an alleged snuff film would have seen. There's Berkey. Remember, middle of the night. Hold on. Yeah, there he is. A lot of detail there. Well, what an interesting snuff film. A guy running up to a. What an interesting snuff film. A guy running up to a car and putting his hands up.
I mean, it's just silly to me.
Right. Now, all right, so that's your snuff film. Now,
Yes.
another thing we should talk.
We showed Tommy Zeno.
We showed Tommy Zeno. Now I want to deal with the yellow Volkswagen in 17th Court. So now one of the big things about Maury Terry's theory is that there was a yellow Volkswagen driving away that had been seen all night with multiple people.
Yes.
And then a beautician who lived up there.
No, she was parked there.
She was
a
parked
nurse
there.
was working up there.
Right, a
But
nurse.
Look, so we all know the yellow Volkswagen story. The beautician phoned it in. I'm going to show you where she was parked, what angle she had, her angle of view, and I'm going to tell you again that she stated this happened at 2:45 a.m.
10 minutes after the shooting.
10 minutes after the shooting.
As if the shooter's gonna stand in suspended animation
For 10 minutes.
for 10 minutes.
It doesn't make sense. It's illogical. It's beyond human instincts. You do something like that, the fight or flight instinct kicks in, and you get out of
You
there.
do what Berkowitz did, which was
Yeah.
hightail it the hell out of there immediately after the shooting. But in
So-
Maury Terry's scenario, now he told us it happened immediately after, so that's why we all thought it was an immediate thing.
Yes.
But when we looked at the police report, it turned out that this report was phoned in 10 minutes after the shooting, and it was done here. So allegedly the yellow VW shooter, so that down there all the way is the car,
Yes.
comes out here, and the beautician was parked on the other side of the street, we believe.
Well, her report says parked in front of the handball court. Now, right in front of the handball court, faces towards Bay 16th.
So she wouldn't have
So
seen, right,
she
here's the
wouldn't have
handball
seen-
court.
She wouldn't have seen somebody run out of the entrance.
Right.
So I'm assuming she was parked right here, because now you have a view of the front entrance of the park, and you can see somebody run out.
Right.
So
I don't see how you can make, at 2:30 in the evening from this location right here, I don't see how you can make any determination that they were wearing a wig.
She said she saw someone run out like he just robbed the bank, wearing what she thought was a cheap nylon wig. And when you read the description of the car, it's not a yellow Volkswagen Bug.
Right.
It's a yellow fastback with a gray bottom, a big CB antenna on it. And what I think, actually she didn't, I don't think she gave the plate. Oh, she gave a partial plate. I think she said it looked like a New Jersey plate.
Right.
A light yellow.
So now what we're alleging, what I'm alleging, and I don't know whether I think you agree with me, is that this was most likely a person who heard about the shooting and got the hell out of there because they didn't want to be around where there was cops around. They just ran out of the park. They heard there was a Son of Sam shooting and they just ran.
Right.
That seems to make sense.
Listen, it could have been someone who pulled up, ran in to see the commotion, then ran out to go tell someone, you got to see what happened at the park.
Right.
It could have been a guy trying to buy pot and realized something went on and he got the hell out.
Yeah, there's cops
Who knows
everywhere.
what it could have been.
Right.
What I'm pretty sure it wasn't was David Berkowitz or Barry Dossenko.
Now, and of course we have multiple reports of numerous Volkswagens in this area right before the shooting. Red Volkswagens, the yellow Volkswagen, we have yellow Vegas, we have, basically there was a lot of people in this park that night.
Yeah, we have Donna Bozo's police report. She was in a red Volkswagen with her boyfriend.
Yeah, right before the shooting.
Parked actually directly across from Violante. And she left right before the shooting. They went to get, I think they went to get a sandwich in the deli. And by the time they got back, it had happened already.
Hold on, I just dropped my piece of paper here. Sorry. So again, back in the park, swing area.
So Berkowitz this was probably the park house.
Right.
So he may have been leaning against the wall. And when they walked by, they noticed him.
Right.
And if the swing area was on this side, he could have been creeping them. If they were in the swing area that was on the other side of the park house, he easily had access to stare at them. And
hey guys, sorry, we had an overheating problem. We're out here in like over 100 degrees, so the camera overheated. We had to wait a little while and then restart it. So John, you were talking about them, about where Berkowitz was standing and watching them.
pretty much, regardless of which set of swings Robert and Stacey were on, whether it was this side of the park house or that side, Berkowitz easily could have been leaning on the wall on either side, creeping them out, watching them.
Now they said that they only stayed in the swing area a couple minutes. It wasn't like a long thing.
It's
because
Stacey got creeped out, and when they walked out past the park house, the man was gone.
Now this is important because what's going to happen with the Terry heads is they're going to say, "Oh, well, you mischaracterized it because you walked from Bay 17th to the shooting site, but you didn't stop and have the swing area happen, so it was too quickly regardless." But again,
I don't see how. I mean,
Cecilia Davis didn't say it was 2 minutes. She said it was like 5 minutes. It was like more than 2 minutes.
Stacey.
Right,
You mean
Stacey.
Stacey?
No, Cecilia Davis.
oh, okay.
Right. This 2 minute thing, I don't know even where that came from. That was just like a Maury invention. So Berkowitz walked back to the park, hung out for a minute or two watching them, freaked them out. They walk back to their car, and then he goes and shoots them.
Also, if it wasn't Berkowitz, that was the creepy guy, grubby guy at the park.
Right, it could have.
There's always been these two exits out of the park. So someone that was hanging out here, smoking a joint, killing time, could have easily walked and got out of here. So this is why they didn't see anyone when they left.
Right, and you know what? It's funny because I visited this spot once, and I remember hanging out here for a second, and I saw like all sorts of like bums hanging out in here and grubby looking people. So it's not out of the question that at 2:30 in the morning at a park house, it wasn't even Berkowitz looking at them. It might have been like a bum or a you know, a derelict.
Right.
I mean, the guy,
somebody hanging out, smoking some weed or having a drink.
I mean, the guy they described doesn't even sound like Berkey. Oh, but he was wearing a wig, and he changed his wig, and he rolled up his sleeves. No, he didn't.
You know, I don't. Of course, we don't know if it was him or not. But the point is, it takes 3 minutes to walk here. Even if he stopped and watched them on the swings for 2 minutes,
It all happens in 5 minutes.
He still has 5 minutes. Are you telling me that
he couldn't do that from over there? Literally a hop, skip, and a jump away? No, sorry.
You're telling me Cecilia Davis couldn't walk her dog in 10 minutes and pass him as he's on his way here? He has more than enough time to do it.
Absolutely.
It's just another one of Maury's crazy theories that just doesn't hold up.
Well, he had to make these things up in order to create a narrative which fit. Otherwise, people like us would come around and freaking fact check them, right?
This was a high fence. This opening
this
was
was a
never
high
here.
fence.
And there were 2 bocce ball courts here.
Now, what I want to do real quick is, this is very important because you, and this is the beautiful thing about coming out here with you, John, is that you grew up in this neighborhood relatively, and you were in this neighborhood all the time. You had a million relatives, and not only that, but your aunt and uncle were actually canvassed by detectives that night, and their police report is one of 600 police reports, or 485 in the Moscowitz file. And Maury Terry actually used their police report to craft his narrative, and he got it wrong.
If you could see that white terrace, if you could see the white fence up there, that was my aunt and uncle's house.
All the way down there at the end?
There's a white...
Is this private property?
No, it's driveway.
We can walk down here?
Yeah.
All right.
So that was their house. I spent many days in that house, in their swimming pool. Their back porch and their swimming pool overlooked. Actually, it would have been directly in line with the park house.
Really?
Yeah.
So they were in that at the end there.
That house with the white terrace.
Right.
See the white terrace?
The one sticking out in the back.
Yes.
All the way up there, okay.
That was my aunt and uncle's house. And they would, at 3 o'clock in the morning, they would canvass. I'd like to actually show you their block.
Yeah, I think
it's important.
I think it's important. So just to set the scene, his aunt and uncle, they had a very important house. It looked not only into the park, but it fronted a street called Bay 14th.
Yes.
Which is critical to showing how Maury, I mean, the brazenness of the lies. I'm just like, my breath is taken away and I'm speechless.
It was critical to craft a narrative. You know, I do respect that he was trying to sell a book and maybe he took some liberties, to put it kindly. But if you remember reading police reports or the book, when Tommy Zano heard the shots, he pulled out and immediately made a right turn on Bay 14th, which is right here.
Just like this car doing, right here. That's Tommy Zano right there.
Yes.
Right, okay,
now,
so he drives down that way.
Now, if you remember in our show we did, I showed my aunt's police report and showed how Maury manipulated it.
Right.
And the reason, what happened was, at 3 o'clock, the police canvassed all the surrounding area. My aunt and uncle happened to be pulling up from going out that night.
They were just coming home. Again,
Yes.
showing how nightlife in this neighborhood took place at 3
Yes.
until 3 in the morning. People regularly stayed out.
Definitely. So my aunt described a car driving up the wrong way at a high rate of speed.
Now that's coming down this way towards
Yes.
the park.
So I was trying to explain that there's no reason why a shooter, a killer, or someone in the conspiracy would be driving up the wrong way.
Half an hour later.
A half an hour later, and to the left of us is where the shooting happened.
Right back to the scene.
Yes.
So Maury...
So it wasn't until I found my aunt's police report that I realized what happened. It was actually an unmarked police car responding to the scene, which I actually found on Google a picture of 3 or 4 police cars facing that way.
Yes, and one of them looks yellow, and we're going to show that picture right now.
Which is unbelievable. So Maury had people believe, reading that was
but not
the killer
only
exiting the scene.
Right, because
that was actually coming towards the
I think he said like it was immediately after the shooting. Thomas Valens,
yes,
right? Your aunt and
Mrs.
uncle Valens said that they saw a car going the wrong way with his headlights blinking, and then it goes into this whole elaborate thing about how the headlight blinking technique is from someone who doesn't want to be noticed. It was a cop.
My aunt and uncle were Anthony and Connie Violante. Maury called them Mrs. Valens in the book.
Unbelievable.
Tried to protect them.
So anyhow, John, we have, I think we've done it. I think we've covered the scene. I think we've done a great job showing not only all the sites, but all the angles and where Stacey was sitting and all of this stuff. I think we really have done the definitive video on this very unfortunate incident, the last incident before David Berkowitz was caught. Any last words for the audience?
I was just curious because, like, whenever I go to a scene, it never really looks like what I had it pictured in my mind. When I'm reading about it in a book, how did you feel when you got here the first time?
When I first saw this place, I was...
It's a lot smaller than you thought,
It's
right?
smaller, there's a lot more happening. I thought it was a lot more deserted than it actually turned out to be.
A lot of access points to these couple of blocks here.
Yeah, I didn't realize.
Courtyards,
I didn't
courts.
realize the courtyards. With the way Maury made it sound, it was like everything was really far away from each other. And of course, now that we've dived into the police reports, it's just sickening how much he's lied. So anyway, John, I think I'm going to end the video here because we are now standing basically in traffic, but also basically at the site where a really very haunting crime scene photo was taken of the detectives that night, and I kind of wanted to end there. So John, I want to say thank you so much once again for joining me on this.
Thank you, and I hope everybody liked it.
Yeah, extremely helpful. I just don't want to get run over by a car here. And we'll see you at the next video. Thanks, guys.